So now we get to another key part, which of course intrigues me to no end, because if you start diving into the world of Anna Delvey, and especially now because she is a massive celebrity after the Netflix series, some people, when you read on social media, will comment that they just think she's a hero. They admire her. They look up to her, and other people are, she broke the law. So villain or hero. And psychologically, this really brings up a lot. I think it's quite fascinating. Many people admire Anna and cheer her because she conned a bank. And a bank is not a person, it's an institution.
Mm-hmm.
And many people don't like the big business banks because of their mentality. So the fact that she conned a bank, well, that's okay. And it's male dominated, so that's even better. And she conned a lot of the New York socialites, and that doesn't evoke sympathy either. So a lot of people go, well, they're all snobs and they have more money than, so, we don't care if they were conned.
Yeah.
So ripping off the rich for some people will bring about this hero status. You ripped off the rich. Yay. Just don't rip off a little guy.
I wanted to say something about, you were talking about the, for cheering her for conning a bank and how male dominated some of these institutions were. One thing when I was reviewing this today, and they talked about it briefly in the TV adaptation, but it's true. She was operating in this patriarchal world of high finance, and the institution, the lending institution, I believe it was Fortress, that she had applied for this loan. When they turned down the loan was declined. But after they declined the loan, the point person on it, the VP, a married man, they had all of these texts that he had sent her, telling her how sexy she was and how he wanted to kiss her. And so after he turned down this, but just the way she was treated by that, it's just very interesting.
That'll teach her to tilt her head, right?
That'll teach her. Well, she used it, but right. He was not, it's just that there was.
It's disgusting.
So there's this argument when you're talking about why are people admiring her? Well, because she's going in there and she's trying to one up these people who are, they're, in some areas of their behavior do not appear to be of integrity.
Well, I admire
good
her.
for her for trying to get whatever she could, because this person was not, whatever. Mm-hmm. So that's the argument.
Yeah. And I can admire her courage. I can admire her guts.
Mm-hmm.
She also, though, ended up pulling a lot of people in because she had massive social media popularity. Yes. She had this huge Instagram following, and now her Instagram following is up to 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And on her Instagram, I ended up following her because I wanted to see what she was posting for this presentation we're doing. And there's an email on there for contact. And I did email, it's, I don't know, Anna Delvey business@gmail.com, something like that. And I asked for her birth time. Of course, I haven't heard back. But her massive social media profile created glamour.
Mm-hmm.
And how easy is it to convince people you're important when you have a big social media profile? It happens all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a false flag. Just because you have a big social media profile doesn't mean you know anything. I see it in astrology all the time.
Yes. Yes.
So
if you have an audience, people, if people are following you, even if you are just making stuff up, they will give you credibility.
Exactly.
Because you have an audience, like Jim Jones had an audience. And,
so she was she was appreciated for her moxie and her go-getter attitude. And for some people, they say she's a role model. I aspire to be like her. I think that's really fascinating. But she was a social media celebrity and still is. She's a celebrity on many levels. And again, we go back to that AP Jupiter Pluto. Here's a woman who went to prison and she's still this massive celebrity. We're still talking about her. So the question is, why are we so fascinated with people like this? Why are we so fascinated with social media celebrities or people who are cons, people who deceive? Because there is this kind of absolute fascination people have. Do we want to be like them? Or do we want to live vicariously through their misdeeds? I think that's interesting. Are we studying these people so that we are more informed about con artists so we know what to look for? Or are we needing the excitement without the risk or the consequences? I mean, the very fact that she is such a big deal just absolutely fascinates me, just like Elizabeth Holmes, which we shouldn't get too deep into that because we'll go off in this other rabbit hole. But Elizabeth Holmes, who was also a big con artist, and but there's this fascination, especially with women.
Well, what we can say about Elizabeth Holmes without getting into the details is that we do see patterns in what we know of Elizabeth Holmes's horoscope that are similar to what we see in Anna Delvey. So there are these patterns that can reflect similar, manifestations.
If used in the shadow.
If used in the shadow, yeah.
This is not cookbook astrology. You don't look at every single person with Pluto square Venus and say they're going to manipulate. There's always the potential. You have to talk to the person to find out how they're living the chart. But this celebrity status, and if you look at some of the interviews done on that you can find them on the internet or articles, and you read the comments, this is where you will get a gigantic education about some people saying what she did was okay, they deserved it, and other people saying she should be in jail for 20 years. You get this opposite reaction, and I find that so fascinating in psychology. So now we get to the time when she was arrested. It caught up with her, and her friend Rachel helped her get arrested. She sort of set it up. Anna, when she realized the walls were closing in, somehow, I can't remember how, but she got a check, she deposited it.
She wrote a bunch of bad checks and was able to get some cash on these fake checks.
Deposit it and then take it out really quick. And then she whizzed off to, she jetted off to LA.
Hollywood.
And then she realized her visa was up. And from what I understand, she realized that they couldn't deport her if she was in rehab. So she faked an overdose or something like that would qualify her for rehab. She entered rehab, and Rachel reached out to her, found out where she was, and that's how she knew where they could go arrest her. So that happened on October 3rd, 2017. And guess what? When she was arrested, transiting Uranus was at 27 degrees Aries. And I thought that was so fascinating. Just in case her moon is in Aries in the late degrees. I think that's really, really interesting.
Yeah, and definitely about to square her natal Saturn and her North Node. So, she was going to be
right.
So her structures were going to be, and her authority, and it was going to be shaken up, and it would have brought her into, I think, more into the public with the North Node there too.
And Uranus brings about a sudden change, brings about the release of stagnation or, a shakeup in what's happening. And she certainly had that. So she was arrested, and then she was remanded to Rikers, as we said. They would not give her bail. And then when the trial started, Anna, being this very clever and strategic person, hires a stylist. And realizes if I look really good, they're not going to see what I did. They will see me in a certain light, in Jupiter and Leo, right? So she hires a stylist. She has no makeup. She has no hair products, but she's dressed really well, and it commands attention.
And I want to say something about these photographs. I'm going to talk specifically about these photographs and say that in these photographs, we've been talking about Saturn in her horoscope and how strong it is. And you see these heavy owlish glass frames. These heavy frames to me is
Saturn. And black.
When
Saturn is the color black.
And black. And so we know, so that planet has to be, when we know it's close to her sun, it might be close to her moon, it might be close to others, but we know that this planetary, the symbolism is going to be brought forward in her horoscope with these heavy glasses.
That's a great observation. Just great.
Yeah.
What happens is Shonda Rhimes decides to do a Netflix series, and Dear Anna profits from it. Now, there's a law, you're not supposed to be able to profit from something that was illegal. But what it allowed her to do, Anna was paid $320,000 and was able to pay her debts, and $22,000 was left over. So, I mean, this is Sun Jupiter. The other thing about people who have Sun Jupiter in contact, conjunct, square, or opposite, there's usually an element of luck. In 2021, Uranus was in Taurus between 7 and 15 degrees or so, 9, 15, something like that. So, and Saturn was in Aquarius. So she had a lot of contact happening at that time.
Yeah.
But paid $320,000, and she didn't get to keep it, but free and clear. She did her time in prison. Her debts are paid off. She pocketed $22,000. Who has that kind of karma, right? I mean, amazing. Sun Jupiter people, Sun Jupiter. My mom had Sun Jupiter conjunct, and things would get really, really tight financially, and miracles would always happen for her over and over and over again. I see this with Sun Jupiter people quite often.
And the Jupiter-Pluto midpoint at the Aries point.
Jupiter, yeah. Now that
cannot forget that. Take that to the bank.
Take that to the bank. So here we go with a future look for Anna, just with transits. And one thing that we have to say here is when we are really thinking of major markers in time in a person's life, most of the time there is an involvement with an angle. The angles in the horoscope are the ascendant, descendant. So it's these crosshairs in the midheaven IC. Okay.
Or the compass points. If you're looking at a compass, although the directions don't correspond to our traditional compass, but that's the location.
For people who use whole sign houses, you're not going to have it as crosshairs like this. I prefer the Placidus house cusps, which is why I have it oriented. And that's just a choice. It's a choice I have. But usually the angles are the strongest parts of the horoscope. They are usually activated by transit or solar arc when major activity happens. So we know when we arrive at a rectified time for her, or if we ever get her birth time, there's going to be stuff happening with angles in all these key periods of time. Of course, from what I understand in Russia, they don't do a very good job at all of keeping birth times, so it's very difficult for a lot of people in Russia. But here's what's coming up for her and going on. And transiting Pluto is conjunct Saturn right now for 22 and 23, 2022, 2023. So Pluto conjunct Saturn by transit that's a profound aspect. It's holding you accountable. It's deep transformation. It's also empowering Saturn's need to achieve. In addition, in 2022, she has transit Saturn conjunct her Venus, and transit Uranus is going to square it next year in 2023. So let's talk about this Venus stuff, and let's tell the story. We were talking not just quite 2 weeks ago saying this story's not done. There's more coming up. Her Venus is being triggered. I wonder what kind of Venus activity we're going to see in life. Why don't you tell people what's going on with her?
So, okay, first I want to say something before I talk about that. I want to mention the Pluto conjunct Saturn. I want to add that transit, which comes around maybe once or twice in a lifetime is consistent with an experience with high stakes. So right now she got out of jail, but instantly now the realization that they might actually kick her out of the country. So part of her Pluto-Saturn thing is the high stakes and the hard work that may even have a sense of anguish about what has to be accomplished.
Yes.
Okay. So this is
and one more thing on that.
Yeah.
The phrase I usually use with Pluto Saturn is hard work pays off, but hard work is required.
Yes, but it's hard work with high stakes, and which we see.
And if her moon is at late Aries, then it would also be squaring her moon, but we don't know that.
But we don't know. So the Venus in the horoscope refers to creativity, the artist. It also refers to relationships. And so Kathy and I were talking last week and thinking, well, that Venus is going to be stimulated. So we could see that. We could see she's not done. She's going to come back. She's going to present some other creative project, or maybe she attracts a partner and that could happen. But the idea that this is so far from over and we're going to be hearing something about it almost immediately. And then the recording that we did a couple of weeks ago, there was a technical issue, so we couldn't put that out there. But just last weekend, I believe, we're reading the news, and Anna is an artist. She has, she does draw, she doodles and dabbles, and that's what she did when she was, sitting in the courtroom during her trial. She was doing all these doodling and drawings, and there was an art show, a benefit, where artists were, interestingly enough, copying her artwork, and it was displayed in a little, Watt gallery down on the Lower East Side last weekend, where it was being sold, pieces being sold maybe for $10,000 a piece. And
just a mere 10,000.
And just a mere 10,000. And she has an agent, and there is a solo show in the works here in New York of her artwork. This person is still, and reflecting the values, the extremes of values of this society, is still capable of generating money. And so people are willing to work with her, and she has this new potential thing happening, as we saw.
And the man who is reproducing her work, because she's detained. So she's not able to get large enough pieces of paper, and she's only able to work with pencil. So she basically hired somebody. His name is Alfredo Martinez, who was incarcerated at one point, served prison time in the early 2000s for mail and wire fraud, and also forged drawings. Isn't that fascinating? But
a reputable artist, i.e., so he's an art forger, and so here we have this theme coming in. It's just fascinating.
And she said, "Oh, everybody has assistants. This is very common in the art world, right?" So her work is up, and I don't know how much they sold, but a future solo show is in the works, and they want to tour the world with it. And that could be the transit Uranus squaring Venus, activating the Venus principle, basically.
This new creative outlet, this need for innovation in social expression and artistic expression.
And it activates, the Venus-Pluto square, because transiting Uranus will be opposite Pluto. So it's just activating that whole principle. But the big thing that I am really seeing here is that transiting Pluto is going to move forward and make a conjunction to her sun in Aquarius in 2024 and 2025. At that same time, transit Uranus is going to enter Gemini and make the conjunction to her Mars. That's so much activity. And the conjunctions are the atomic bombs in astrology. That contact by conjunction is the most powerful contact you can ever have developmentally. So by no means do I feel we are done hearing from her. I think she will find a way to put herself front and center. And, The only thing I say a little prayer for is, dear Anna, use your energy well. Stay above board, learn from this experience, make a choice. We don't know if she will or not, but
yeah, because you look at that horoscope and you're like, there is tremendous potential for success, and there is the need, especially when you look at that North Node in Capricorn. There is a need to have social status, to accomplish something, to be a person in charge. It's there. It's there. So just, play by the rules a little bit and trust that people will recognize your achievements. And, anyway, there's
our dear friend Noelle Till always said, needs make things happen.
Yes.
And people will work hard to fulfill the need matrix in their horoscope. So she will work hard to fulfill those Capricorn planets that need to achieve. Here's an example of one of the pieces that was reproduced, one of the sketches she made. And apparently there's another version of it where he actually put some color in it, but this is the black and white version, and was offered for $10,000. So as an artist who sold work for 12 years in shows, who put 40 and 50 hours into my work, I can tell you I never sold anything for $10,000. So to have this sketch, but most of art is about, if you have a story, if you are creating attention, if you have a social media presence, you can command that. It's fascinating to me. So the artworks, as we mentioned, are being reproduced by Alfredo Martinez. It's just like she attracted somebody who would reflect back to the world her protocols, which are, I bend the rules. And again, in the Maverick personality, Mavericks, and her Maverick statement is that Uranus-Mercury conjunction. Mavericks tend to bend the rules. Now, not all Mavericks break the law, but Mavericks tend to challenge rules or question or creatively move around rules, not just break the law. So there we have it. Here we are back to the beginning, interpreting Anna, the horoscope of Anna Delvey Sorokin. And pay attention, because we haven't seen the end of this woman.
No, we have not. No, that's right, because she is always right.
Even if, wouldn't it be fascinating if she doesn't get deported, if she finds a way to skirt that issue and stay in the United States? Or if she does go back to Germany, which is where they're thinking of deporting her, how long before she's back? Who knows? So thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Kathy. This is so much fun.
Listening got something out of this, but remembering, we don't know how a person's going to live their chart until we hear their story.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So we will sign off. I hope everybody enjoyed this, and keep your eye out, read the book, watch the interviews, watch the Netflix series. Yes.
Post questions, post comments.
Yes. Okay. So bye for now for everybody.
Bye-bye.